So, before we get this video started, I want to kind of apologize for its placement of release. Generally, types of videos like this come out towards the beginning of the year, but due to some issues in January, I wasn't able to work on making any videos. On top of that, due to some issues early February, I was unable to post. So now we're back to posting, now we're back to video making, back to video editing. And the way I wanted to do the Dark Library this year every other week instead of doing it every week in order to allow more time for bigger videos like this week and last week's video have not allowed for me to get this out timely, considering if I don't want to start the year off with the anime list. So I do apologize for that, but I hope you understand why it is why it is. Now, with all that said, let's get to the actual video. Wow, 2016 felt like an odd year. A lot of good and a whole lot of bad. But let's focus on the good stuff for now. With video games. 2016 was a pretty good year for video games in general, with a number of good big releases and some bad ones, no doubt, but still a lot of really good games came out in 2016. And now we're here to go over a few of them. But let's go over a few rules first. First, of course, only games that I've played throughout the year. And if there are some games that came out and I didn't care for or haven't picked up yet, for one reason or another, they're not going to be on the list. So while some games can be good that came out, I just didn't play them, so I have no experience with them, even if I've heard they're really, really good. Also, I'm not counting like big expansion DLC as part of this list, so anything like that's automatically out too. And if you're going to ask about why there are only 13 entries, well, 13 is my lucky number. I felt it's a good median between over 10, and, well, I didn't want to rip off the nostalgia critic completely. So, without anything else to do, let's just get started with this list already, shall we? So, I am a fan of the Digimon franchise. I've been a fan of Digimon as long as I've been a fan of Pokemon. But one thing that's always annoyed me about Digimon was the lack of games that have come out in the US. Now, there are plenty of games out in Japan, including a bunch of games that came out systems that we never even got here in the West, like the WonderSwan games, which, let me tell you about the WonderSwan games sometime. But here in the West, we've often been left behind with releases. But we actually managed to get a game this time in the form of Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth. Now, this game did originally come out on the PlayStation Vita, and yes, there is a Vita version that you can play if you have a Vita, as it does support cross-save compatibility. But I'm going to be strictly speaking of the PS4 version, as that's the version I have and I enjoy. Now, as I stated before, this game is an upscaled port. Now, that can be an issue to some people. For me, it's just a minor bit of detail, considering the fact that PS Vita does have a lot of processing power to play really good looking games, such as Persona 4 Golden. Basically speaking, if you have a Vita and you have Persona 4 Golden, you're set for life. Anyway, the basic plot of this game takes place in a world that's kind of like Summer Wars, which I think is fitting considering the fact that Summer Wars stole Digimon the movie's ending. The next Digimon game would have steal its setting. After an incident on a particularly dangerous part of the internet, you and your friends are attacked by a mysterious being known as an Eater. You yourself end up partly cyberdized, and your physical body is left in a coma. From there, the story goes on investigating the cause of the Eater outbreak, what Digimon are, where Digimon come from, and stuff like that. The game has a pretty interesting story with some pretty interesting characters, as well as a decent setting. I won't say interesting considering the fact that the setting is pretty overdone by this point. But I will applaud is the battle system, as well as Digimon themselves. The Digimon are plentiful and in a wide variety. On top of that, unlike Pokemon, which evolve once, you can digivolve, de-digivolve, and do all that to make your Digimon stronger and stronger and stronger. In fact, that's possibly the only way you can get certain type of Digivolutions. On top of that, Digivolution requirements aren't as much of a pain in the ass as they were in previous games. Strictly speaking of Digimon World or Digimon Story Dusk, Digivolution requirements in that game were kind of a pain in the ass. And speaking of the new release, Digimon World, which came out recently, the Digivolution requirements are yet again a pain in the ass. So I will applaud this game for having pretty simple to understand Digivolution requirements. Now, this could be the start of seeing a whole new renaissance in Digimon games, as this game is also a new game that came out recently, and both come out in the West. Yes, again, they're Vita ports, but at the same time, again, at least they came out. Who can say, honestly? All I can say is this is a pretty fine game. I'm enjoying it. I've enjoyed it plenty of times. The story's fine, the combat's pretty cool, and again, seeing all these Digimon brings back warm feels. So, if you're a fan of Digimon, I highly recommend Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth. The Danganronpa series is a series of games that I've come to love recently. They're pretty obscure games, but the fan base is very large and, well, not large, but very vocal with their love and support of the franchise, both East and West. So, while there was one major release in Japan last year, we're going to be strictly speaking about the release that came out for America. Because the biggest obstacle that these games had was that they were originally Vita games. But thanks to Steam, these games have officially come out on the PC. This is why I'm lumping both 1 and 2 together here on this list. So, again, Danganronpa 1 and 2. Essentially, these games are light novels that add a Phoenix Wright style murder mystery where you have to find a series of killers for each trial that you go on throughout the story, as well as figuring out the mystery about what's going on. The basic plot of pretty much any Danganronpa game, even the Gaiden game, for those who don't know, Gaiden games are games that are completely different from the original source material, is basically speaking, you wake up, you the main character wake up in a completely unknown situation surrounded by people that you don't know. And that you and these people are stuck in a murder game perpetrated by a mysterious black and white bear known as Monokuma. The basic plot is you trying to figure out why you're there, who's the mastermind behind all of this, and how the hell you're going to get out of it. Well, people are killing each other left and right. The game and the story are good, and the characters are all really a shining part of the game, because I don't think this game will be as memorable or enjoyable without the various characters you encounter. Again, there are various standout characters and characters that you really don't give a damn about. Even the ones that end up getting murdered or end up as kills in the end still leave a bit of a mark on you when you play the games. So, yeah, it's an interesting story with some great mysteries and characters, and now they're both on Steam, so you don't have any excuse if you're just curious. But again, these games are essentially light novel releases, so if you're not a fan of the light novel style, I wouldn't recommend it. But if you do enjoy a bit of reading now and then, and a lot of reading at various points, then again, pick up Danganronpa. You can pick with the first one or the much better second one. It's up to you, honestly. It's kind of funny to think the Fire Emblem franchise was originally going to end with Awakening. And now we're here celebrating not only the release of the game that came out last year, a game that's going to come out later on this year, a mobile game, and then another game that's going to come out on the upcoming Nintendo Switch. Fire Emblem has really taken off as one of Nintendo's great franchises, which it always has been, even if critical reception, no, not critical reception, but audience exception wasn't particularly strong at points. But here we are, the franchise has been reborn again, and Fire Emblem Fates is quite possibly the best Fire Emblem games we've ever experienced. Intelligent System was really hit out of the park with this one, and there are some annoying bits about Fates. It does do the Pokemon thing where it splits it between two versions, the Birthright and Conquest. But these games are completely different. Birthright is for those of you who want a more Awakening style game. Conquest is for those of you who want a more traditional Fire Emblem game, and if you want a mixture of both, pick up Revelations, which is a third DLC story, which kind of wraps up together any remaining subplots from Birthright and Conquest. And my god, these games have a lot of improvements. I'll admit, I do love Fire Emblem Awakening, but the game has some major balance issues with magic, especially if you have a strong enough Dark Mage who can use Nosferatu being broken as hell. But this game manages to fix all the balance issues that are there, and these games can be hard as balls, which is what any Fire Emblem fan loves, making the game almost impossible to beat. These games, again, aren't easy, and Conquest, I've heard, can be the most difficult Fire Emblem game of all time. The most difficult Fire Emblem game of all time. And a series that's known for being really difficult. But, my god, I still love it. I do have to admit, there are some things that don't really work that great. The story, while pretty good, has a lot of flaws here and there, particularly the main character of Corrin, who feels too much like a blank slate to be all that interesting. Well, yes, I did try to do this with Robin in the last game. At the same time, I felt like Robin was a bit more of a character. Corrin just feels like your audience avatar. But, where Corrin fails, all the other characters pick up the slack, with the various siblings that you have being pretty standout personalities. And then there's various retainers and other characters that you come across. And again, the gameplay is fun, difficult as hell, but fun. And again, these games are downright fun. These are great games, and if you're gonna have a good time, I would recommend picking up Birthright first, then Conquest if you get curious enough, and then Revelations if you want to challenge with some flexibility here and there. Again, these are great, fine games. Probably the best farming games we've had in a long time. That fix up a lot of Falls and Awakening, even if they do have a big bunch of issues in their own right. So this is the child system. But you never know. The next Paranormal game might just fix up all these issues and more. Like Pokemon, these games are constantly evolving, and that's what I love about it. So it's okay if I put what essentially is just an HD remake of an older game on the list. Yeah, I can argue Digimon Cyber Sleuth is that, but at the same time, this game never ever got in the West, so it can break through with those laws. But what's to stop me from putting Zelda Twilight Princess on the list? Nothing really, so let's put it on the list. While Twilight Princess isn't my favorite Zelda game, and that's Wind Waker if you're curious, I do admit it's still a fun game. The atmosphere is there, Midna's a great character, Wolf Link is freaking awesome, and yeah, atmosphere, Wolf Link and Midna. The story is pretty great, the story is pretty decent, the characters you come across are also pretty enjoyable, and the gameplay has been refined to a great T. While I do miss some of the vibrant colors that were in Wind Waker, which again, Wind Waker I highly recommend if you're just getting Zelda games. Twilight Princess again brings the atmosphere, and while its coloring can be a bit too dark and morose in some points in time, it's still an enjoyable playthrough. If you didn't play the original GameCube release or the Wii release, I highly recommend this, especially if you want a version that doesn't have waggle controls, which I will admit didn't really bother me that much when I played it, but I can see why people have issues with them. Again, I still highly recommend Wind Waker, especially if you can find yourself a copy of Wind Waker HD. But if you're chomping at the bit for some Zelda action, haven't tried this one in a while, and want something to do to pass time till Breath of the Wild comes out in March, then I highly recommend Twilight Princess. Play it again. It's there if you need it. I'm honestly surprised it took me this long to put a Pokemon game on the list, considering the fact that I do a lot of Pokemon-based things on this channel. But we have a Pokemon game with Pokken Tournament. So I was excited about this game from the initial announcement alone. A Pokemon fighting game? You mean like that one that was kind of released online, but wasn't an official one, and being partially developed by a team that worked on the Tekken games? This sounds amazing! And it's only a Japanese arcade cabinet. Ah, god damn it, that ruins everything. But here we are with the Wii U port, and I'm super excited about that. Yeah, basically this entire game series was a roller coaster of emotions following the development of this game. So, yeah, exactly what I said out of 10. It's a Pokemon fighting game that's sort of based around Tekken. But since I haven't really played that many Tekken games, thank you, Super Bosses, I can't really compare it to a Tekken game, but no, exactly. But I have good confirmation from someone who does play Tekken games that there's a pretty good comparison between the two franchises, at least the two games. I will say this game is fun, and I love it. The various models are excellent, the textures are excellent, the look is great, the gameplay is fast and dynamic, there's plenty of potential for upsets. It's basically a solid fighting game, which I believe this game had to be first, a very good solid fighting game. And that's pretty much all I have to say about it. It's a good solid fighting game, and if you're a fan of Pokemon, you'll love this one. What I will hate though, what I do dislike though, is the fact that it uses both TV and gamepad for split screen. There's a mechanic in there that switches the game from 3D to 2D, and I get why it's there, but still a pain in the butt. And I also really, really want the DLC characters that have been added onto the arcade version. Maybe in the Nintendo Switch port? Maybe? Possibly? Pokken Tournament 2? This game sold like gangbusters. Nintendo, and apparently you're making enough money to keep developing DLC characters and teasing the fans. So why not just port the re-release version up to some fans and bring it to America? I'd buy it again. Oh, hey, look, another Zelda game, or in particular, another Zelda port. Well, Hyrule Warriors Legends is all I can say. I'm a pretty decent Dynasty Warriors fan. While I don't really like the main series, I do love their spin-offs when they combine to the franchises, such as One Piece Pirate Warriors, or the various Gundam games. And Hyrule Warriors sounded like such a fine example of a game to me that I just couldn't help but play it. And then the 3DS version came out and I had to play it again because Linkle was a thing. Tingle was already a thing, but Linkle's an even better thing. So honestly, which version is better, this or the original? Honestly speaking, with all the characters that have been released on this version, I do have to admit I had a partial version to this one, as well as the fact that I'm already pretty much a deeply involved handheld gamer. And the very concept of Linkle is awesome by itself. So I'm pretty partial to this version compared to the original Wii U version. But I will say I did find it kind of odd they decided to release this one first instead of doing a Fire Emblem crossover. And then Fire Emblem Warriors was announced, and I'm like, okay, just do it. I do have to admit, Hyrule Warriors always have a place in my heart because just how fun of a game it is. So I'll say this right out the gate. I'm not a really big fan of FPS style games. And I was very hesitant to even pick up Overwatch. But what won me over was the fact it just looks so fun. The character designs look pretty excellent, the costumes are pretty fun, the various events that were going on all looked fun. So I picked it up, and now that I have an actual laptop that can play it, I'm playing and enjoying it, as you can see from the various live streams, and whatnot footage I've done of the game. Overwatch has something that most FPS games don't. The only thing I can think of that's similar is Team Fortress 2, and before anyone bites my head off for comparing Overwatch to Team Fortress 2, be happy I did compare it to Battleborn. Basically, it's that sense of fun and character that comes from it. Instead of playing generic Soldier Guy number 5, you're your own unique character. Or at least a Blizzard character that Blizzard created. The same can be said of Team Fortress 2, and for those of you who actually still play that one, Battleborn. And the fact that each of the characters are fun and unique. I know there's that one on Steam that is very similar to Overwatch, but I don't even want to talk about that one. Now, as you can see from my various many playthroughs of Overwatch matches, I suck at this game. I suck at this game hard, mainly because I suck at FPS games. But even while sucking, losing, and getting my ass kicked, I'm still having fun with various characters such as D.Va, Mei, Tracer, Soldier 76, Reaper, etc. You can honestly call this game the waifu game. You can honestly call this game Team Fortress 2 with waifus. I love every minute of playing it. I love the skins. Again, I love the characters, and I can't wait for them to announce a new character. I love the world that they've created. I love the mythos. I love the fan bases with their various shipping wars, because that's always fun to watch go down. Basically speaking, this game has me waiting for more, which is very rare in a game. I rarely wait for more in any game. I normally decide to just pick it up and play what's out there, and if DLC comes out, I may or may not decide to get it. In this case, I'm actively waiting for more. I'm waiting on the next event. I'm waiting on the next character, and I'm enjoying every minute of that waiting by playing the game. This game is fun, and it's a pretty good game. I can see why a lot of people put it as their best game of the year. Well, again, this list in no particular order. This game still isn't my best game of the year, even though I do admit to loving the hell out of it. So yeah, Overwatch. If you have it, pick it up. I'll gladly sing this game's praises. So, I have been a fan of Arc System Works for a really good minute now. I love their BlazBlue franchise, even if the story is confusing as all hell. Thank you, time travel. And I love their work on Persona 4 Arena and Persona 4 Arena Ultimax. Again, I'm a giant Persona fan. But I will say this, I haven't tried all their games. And last year I decided to pick up one of their original titles in the Guilty Gear franchise. And I fell in love almost immediately. Guilty Gear is the basis of the BlazBlue franchise, so I kind of understand why I fell in love with it. And there's a new release that came out last year, Unrevilter. Well, yes, it's just an updated version of XR. It still didn't disappoint with an all new expansion of the story, some new characters, this really damn pretty 3D model that they have for each of the characters, excellent character animation, and again, fun fighting. This is a fine looking game, excellent, beautiful game, with excellent, beautiful fighting controls, and it's just really good. And if you're a fan of fighting games, I highly recommend it, especially if you're a fan of highly flashy anime style fighting games. And guess what? This was on Steam now, so you don't have any excuses. Yes, there are a lot of Steam games this year. Well, guess what? I've been on a lot this year. Hey, you want to know whose games are pretty much always fun? Kirby. Kirby games are always fun. They're not exactly the most challenging thing in the world, but I will admit, these games are damn fun. And that's all that matters for Kirby. It's a fun, enjoyable experience. And again, Kirby is all that in a bag of chips, with some insanely difficult boss fights if you want to do that. So here we have Planet Robobot, and like I said earlier, it's a fun game. With an idea of a robotic invasion force robotizing the planet, which makes me think that these guys are subcontracted by Eggman, which is another Sonic comparison. Basically speaking, Kirby is doing his typical Kirby thing, relaxing, eating, when a bunch of assholes descend down and wake him up from his nap and decide to take over his planet. So standard Kirby plot. Again, the basic plot of a Kirby game is always pretty simple, and then it gets really weird towards the end of it with super galactic consequences. But at the same time, they're always fun. And as I said earlier, this game is really fun. The designs are good, the powers are good. The idea of Kirby in a mech suit is, again, just a great idea and concept. And I just love it. I love every minute of this game, even some of its more annoying underwater segments. So yeah, Kirby, pick it up. So this game is considered a bit controversial amongst certain fan bases and people on the internet. When people heard of a Fire Emblem and Shin Megami Tensei crossover, two games infamously known for their really difficult nature, I, like everyone else, was excited, but never expected the end result. And while for a while that project went kind of quiet to the point where people believed it was cancelled, it came back in a very surprising way as Tokyo Mirage Sessions. And again, no one expected it to be like this. Even I never expected it to be like this, but here it is. And it's fun as all hell. The game is only a crossover of these two games on the surface level, but only winks and nods to Fire Emblem with the Fire Emblem franchise, as well as the surface level being of a Shin Megami Tensei game with very strong Persona elements throughout it. This game is polarizing. Some people love it, some people hate it. I freaking love this thing. Again, it doesn't really serve as the purpose of the crossover, but as a fine game, it'll do the job. Its battle system, allowing for chain attacks to deliver punishment to enemies, and some really interesting dungeon designs with some really annoying ass puzzles in some dungeons, is a good system. I do enjoy the battle system. I do enjoy the dungeon layout as well as the various dungeons that you do encounter. And while yes, the strong focus on J-pop and idols is somewhat annoying if you don't really like that stuff, and me, who's pretty blah on the whole thing, it's kind of annoying to me too. But I do admit I do have some fun with it. The music is great as always for anything that comes out of Nintendo and Atlas. And on top of that, having the surface layer of idle stuff allows for some more unique circumstances with the songs and whatnot. And the English version was censored to high hell in various bits, but there's no really helping of that, such as the gravure stuff was almost completely removed. For those who don't know what that means, I highly recommend Censor Gaming's episode about this entire game. It's a pretty interesting look at it. Ages were up, the whole typical thing they do whenever a game comes out and they are not really too comfortable with some of the content. But if you're not playing this game because you're opposed to the censorship, you're opposed to this as a franchise crossover, or you're butthurt that is out the Shin Megami Tensei Fire Emblem crossover that you wanted, you're missing out on what's a great fine JRPG. And again, it does fail as a crossover, but again, it's a great fine JRPG. And we can always use more of those. At least in my opinion, we could. So, Phoenix Wright game came out last year. And it was a Phoenix Wright game. They're pretty much all pretty good. Well, Apollo Justice is questionable. But yeah, Phoenix Wright, pure Phoenix Wright. With the new setting to explore, Phoenix pushed into a bigger corner than ever, considering his life is literally on the line, and some new mechanics that are quite fun to play around with. While it's not as good as Dual Destinies, it's still pretty good. That's pretty much all I have to say about Phoenix Wright's Spirit of Justice. But at the same time, there's still a lot more to go over with this thing. How the next game in the franchise will do, the various points here and there that are discussed in the various trials, the comedy, the new characters that are introduced. Again, it's a Phoenix Wright game, so there's a lot of stuff you can go into, but because it's a Phoenix Wright game, you can honestly just say it's a Phoenix Wright game and just add in some new stuff here and there and you have a recommendation. Because, these games are pretty lukewarm but fervorous fan base. While they're not pretty big, they're fervorous for any new releases that come out. So if you're curious about Phoenix Wright, I recommend this one or Dual Destinies. They're both fun games. Also, I can't wait for the Let's Dub project to finally take their hands at it, because those guys are pretty great. So I skipped out on the original Dragon Ball Xenoverse due to not wanting to deal with some of the game's more annoying aspects and difficulty spikes. If you want me to elaborate, difficulty spikes, super armor bosses, random drops for rewards like equipment and gear and whatnot, it was a decent game, but consistently it was kind of a pain in the ass to go through. But here in Xenoverse 2, all that is fixed and there are various improvements made. And while yes, these games still don't feel like really good fighting games, they make decent enough MMO style games with the fighting game control scheme, and we've seen a lot of MMO style fighters before. This is just the first big budget one that I can think of. And while if you're a DBZ fighting game purist who wants to return to the old Budokai format, you'll have great issue with this game. You probably won't even touch this game with a 10-foot pole, but I'm honestly going to say I enjoyed my time with it. I find this game to be enjoyable and fun, and, well, it's a pretty decent experience overall. The story's pretty crap because, time travel, but adding in the movie villains was a pretty impressive move, a pretty great move. Probably the best one they could actually do. So if you're a Dragon Ball Z fan, then pick this one the hell up. It's a great Dragon Ball Z experience, even with the GT stuff. And honestly speaking, not having Dragon Ball stuff in it at this point is very wasted potential overall. But I can see why it's not in there. Again, Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2. Fine game, fun experience. Can't wait for all that Super DLC to come out eventually. So, here is what's, without a doubt, my favorite game of the year. With all the hype that surrounded it all throughout last year, and my hype train rolling on throughout the year till the game released in November, it's pretty obvious, especially considering if you've watched my channel before, that this game is Pokemon Sun and Moon. I love these games. I love Alola as a region. I love this plot. I love these characters. I love most of these new Pokemon. Some are a bit more of a mixed bag, but still love all the designs for new Pokemon. There's so much to love about this game, and I just can't express it enough in this segment of a video. Maybe in a potential Let's Play or Nuzlocke challenge I can express how much I love it, but until that time happens, you're just gonna have to hear me sing its praises like this. These games are great, and they might in fact be my new favorite games in the entire Pokemon franchise, which originally was Heart Gold Soul Silver. And while I'm still holding on to those games as best I can, these games just do so much right that it kind of makes me want to topple them over. while again they're great games, I'm looking forward to see what else the 7th generation has in store. I do have some minor things about it, such as some story elements not being fully explained here or there. But again, this is just the first game in the generation. Maybe later games down the line will expand on it. Maybe they'll just jump to Generation 8 like they did with Generation 6. Either way, what we have now as games, and especially as Pokemon games, are fine, really fantastic experiences that any Pokemon fan will love. So, with the world around us turning to hell and back, let's just all sit back for a minute, relax, and play some Pokemon. It'll take our minds off the inevitable apocalypse. So there you have it, my list for the best games of 2016. And 2017 already looks like it has a few great games coming out with Tales of Vesperia, Digimon World, eventually Persona 5, because goddammit, I hope it comes out in April this time instead of coming out freaking 6 months later again. But again, 2016 was a pretty good year for games. There are a few games I couldn't put on this list or mention at all because I didn't have them at the time, such as Shin Megami Tensei Apocalypse, which, if I remember, it came out in 2016, which is a fine no Shin Megami Tensei game. Uh, a few other digital releases here and there, namely Steam indie games. I can't really think of many off the top of my head aside from Fury. But yeah, 2016 was a pretty good year for games. 2017 looks like it's probably going to be even better. But, only time will tell. Hopefully, the Nintendo Switch comes out and rocks our socks off with Breath of the Wild and like that. And I hope you're having a decent year so far, and I hope you have continue to have a great year. Let the year of the rooster clock on, people.